all of my bones were broken. I could hear bone ends grating. My body was screaming in pain. I honestly didn't think I was going to survive. That was when I knew that I've done some serious damage here and I'm in real trouble here. I've always been pretty active. I'm an outdoor instructor and I run an outdoor activity company in Bristol. I've been climbing for quite a few years, and the Cuillin Ridge is like a really big UK tick on any climber's kind of CV, if you like. It's just one of the biggest ridges. It's the longest mountaineering day out you can do in the UK. It's a very remote place with an altitude gain of about 3,000 metres throughout the route. It's just very rocky, it's broken ground, it's pretty unforgiving. I climbed with my friend Paul. Paul was a very willing second climber. The plan was to tackle a traverse of the Cuillin Ridge. We arrived into Slegatchen campsite quite late in the evening. After we'd set up camp, we started to get all our kit ready for a really early start the following day. It was pretty late at that point, but the weather forecast was good, so we felt quite confident that we were going to have a good chance at the ridge. As we were getting ready, Paul made these huge doorstep cheese sandwiches for us to take to have something to eat on the route. And I remember just laughing at him, telling him that we'd spent all this money on this super lightweight gear, that we were going to try and, attempt a fast and light traverse. And then we just added on a whole bunch of cheese sandwiches into our packs to weight them down. On our way there, we could see more of the ridge opened up, and we looked up at the skyline and there was a big black cloud sitting on the southern end of the summits. So the nervousness certainly went up a little bit. To get up to the ridge, it's a pretty relentless trudge. It takes about 3 hours. As we worked our way up, we went up past the loch where we kind of started going into the mist. It became apparent fairly quickly that the mist wasn't shifting. In fact, it was getting thicker. So at that point, we decided that we'd abort the attempt. We got to a rocky section where I wanted just to have a look and see if I could see the route. So I looked around, put my hand on the boulder, and at that point, as soon as I touched the boulder, it slid, it moved. As it moved, it pushed me over the edge, and just suddenly I was free falling through this void. And then all I can remember was this sickening crunch as I landed on my side and then started skidding down these steep rocky slabs. I knew that there was a whole line of cliffs below me, so I was just desperately clawing at the rock, trying to slow my fall. I stopped sliding, and all I can remember was just feeling absolute agony coming from my back and my legs and my hip where I'd landed. I was lying there, I could feel all of my bones were broken. I could hear bone ends grating against each other. It was just excruciating pain. That was when I knew that I've done some serious damage here and I'm in real trouble here. It's completely covered in mist. Nobody knows that we're here. Paul, he's at the top of the ridge. He's going to have to try and find a way to get down to me. I could vaguely hear him calling down. He could vaguely hear me calling up. I was screaming to him that he had to get down to me. I told him that he needed to phone for mountain rescue. We managed to get a little bit of patchy phone signal. We contacted mountain rescue. So whilst that was happening, Paul was trying to make his way, find a safe way down to me. I was already getting quite cold. It was in May, but it was high up, it was misty. So I knew that I was going to go hypothermic very quickly. And I also, although I didn't know the extent of my injuries, I knew that I would likely go into shock. I knew that I had to do some self-first aid to stay alive. So even if we could get a rescue team there, which at the time seemed really unlikely, they'd have to get down to where I was, extract me from that position. And I just thought, it's going to take hours. I don't think I'm going to survive this. And at that point, that was probably one of the lowest points anyway, because I just suddenly was overcome by a sort of sadness. I felt so bad that I wasn't going to survive this. I felt terrible for my family, for my mum, for my partner. I knew that my partner wanted children. I'd resisted to that point, and I thought, my partner's going to be, left to pick up the pieces of this. So I was sat with those thoughts for it felt like forever. I think it was about 45 minutes to an hour before Paul finally managed to find a route down and climb down and managed to find me. When he got to me, he sort of tried to look after me, tried to keep me warm. I can remember I had my emergency whistle in my first aid kit in my bag. So I told Paul just to get that out and to start blowing it, like the international rescue call. I remember Paul just thinking, there's no one here. We are just so remote. There's no one here. No one's going to hear it. And I can remember just saying to him, just get the whistle, just blow it. You never know. Just keep blowing it. Someone might hear it. After must have been an hour, we could hear the sound of a helicopter way off in the distance. It felt like it was much further north than we were. And again, that was a real low point, because I thought they're just never going to find us in the mist. And even if they did, they're not going to be able to get down to where we were, because we're so remote. We're just on this ledge on the side of a mountain in the middle of nowhere in the mist. But we heard it, and then we heard it disappear, which was like soul destroying. We suddenly heard these returning blasts of a whistle, and they just kept coming, these blasts of the whistle. So we were blowing our whistle. Suddenly 2 other climbers appeared out of the mist. Suddenly there was a little bit of hope. We got a mountain rescue advance party came and found us, and they made their way down to where we were, and suddenly things looked up a little bit, but I was definitely deteriorating. I could feel myself really struggling to breathe at that point. I was just trying to hang in and just keep alive. That was my main focus. But the helicopter, as I kind of thought, couldn't get to where we were because of the mist. So the plan was that they were going to put me into a stretcher, haul me up the cliff, over the top of the ridge, and then down the other side to the lake where the cloud base was sitting. In my mind, I just thought, that's just impossible. There's no way that I'm going to survive that long. Everything got quite tense. And my recollection of that was, that they were, getting quite desperate. They needed to get me out of there, to get me low enough down the mountain so the helicopter could come. And when they started putting me in a stretcher and moving me, I can remember just like crying out that I can't breathe, as they'd hoisted me up the cliff and then started the carry. Felt like the straps of the stretcher were crushing my chest. I'd lost about 4 pints of blood, and that blood was going into my chest, collapsing my lungs, which was why I couldn't breathe. At the top of the cliff, everyone then had to pick the stretcher up for the long carry back down where the helicopter could come in. And I just remember saying to them, I'm going, I can't breathe. Having been winched into the helicopter, they must have given me some sort of sedative, because my next memory was waking up at the hospital on Skye, unaware to me. They made an initial assessment. They decided my injuries were so severe that I needed to be moved from there to Glasgow. It was only really when I started coming round and they started to try and reduce the doses of morphine that I had any idea about the extent of my injuries. Shattered my pelvis. I had broken the top of my leg, 5 or 6 vertebrae in my back. I'd broken my shoulder, I'd broken my thumb, I ruptured my bladder, and was altogether in a pretty sad and sorry state. So I was, stuck in the intensive care unit for 3 or 4 days until they could move me from there into the high dependency unit. The thing that really saved my life, I think, was the fact that I didn't hit my head in the accident, in the fall. And the reason for that was because I had a big rucksack with all the gear on, which protected the fall, because I landed on my left side of my body, and as I landed, my head would have flipped back and hit the top of my pocket. The thing that probably saved my life was the cheese sandwich that I had in the lid of my rucksack. At the time, I was in Scotland for the majority of my rehabilitation. I was there for about 4 weeks in total. My partner came up and down the motorway and on by plane numerous times. She came in and she said, "Iain, I've got something to tell you." And she said, she announced that she was pregnant. So that really gave me, something to focus on for the future, and that really did help with the rehab. After about 4 months, I could finally put weight on my leg, so I could start to do a bit more walking. I had little goals in mind. I hiked up some of the easier hiking trails, and just felt myself getting stronger and stronger. So my goal was, by the end of the year, I'd set myself a goal that I was going to get back to running, and that by the end of the year I'd run 1 mile. That was my challenge to myself. Well, on New Year's Eve, I got onto a treadmill and I ran the world's slowest 1 mile. 2 years after the accident, when I'd sort of pretty much fully recovered, I decided that I wanted to do something just to put something back to the search and rescue team that saved my life. So I signed up and volunteered with the Avon and Somerset search and rescue team, which are my local rescue team based down in Bristol, and worked with them for a couple of years, volunteering my time and some expertise, some navigation skills, really just to put something back into the team, the search and rescue team that saved my life. I want to experience as much as I possibly can whilst I still can do things. It's made me more determined to try and do more and more different things.
I was impacted by the van at 7.5 tonne at roughly 30 miles an hour. My life expectancy was around about a couple of minutes. My life was about to come to an end.